Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Welcome to the weekly comic book review here on Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first of all, got to give a big shout out to Alex Inkster. Alex has been supporting us over at Patreon for a good long while now. I really appreciate it, Alex. It's great. If you want to join Alex, join us over at patreon.com/PCP, and you can help support this channel and provide a positive space to celebrate our love of comic books, movies, and pop culture here on YouTube. So anyway, let's get right into it with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Fearscape number 4, the penultimate issue of this Vault series from White Noise member Ryan O'Sullivan, along with artists Andrea Muti and Vladimir Popov, and lettering by Andworld Design. This book has been phenomenal. It's blown us all away. You know this, right? What is this book about? Very simply, there's a place called the Fearscape. All the fears of mankind live there. And once in a generation, a muse has to come to Earth, come to our reality, and find the world's greatest storyteller and bring him into the Fearscape, him or her, and they can defeat the fears of mankind, and thus we can live on, right? So it's a story about the power of story, but it's also a story about not just the power of story, but the fallacy of story, the weakness of story, the weakness of the narrator, sometimes an unreliable narrator. So the world's greatest plagiarist actually gets picked instead of the world's greatest storyteller. Lots of cool stuff happening here. Henry is the unreliable narrator, the really not so cool kind of guy who's doing a lot of messed up things. But what Ryan O'Sullivan's doing here in the script is a lot of different things, some of which I probably don't even grasp or understand right now. But to me, this is a story that's even deconstructing itself. It's a story that could only exist in comic book form, and that's one of the things that's so amazing about this story. It's great. It's fantastic. So it's very fantastical. It's got that fantasy element, the fearscape, the hero of 1,000 faces, and how that works in here. There's lots of stuff in here about the mythology of storytelling. It's a very challenging book. I've said this many times before, to us as readers and to the industry at large, including the creators, the publishers, all that and more. Or it's just a big pretentious ball of nonsense, right? Ryan O'Sullivan really tackles some really interesting concepts and themes here, really does it very well in the script. Vladimir Popov's colors, watercolor-esque they are, really highlight Andrea Muti's very loose line work, and it really all comes together with Andworld's lettering, and it makes a very ethereal, trippy, intriguing, tongue-in-cheek, and wry kind of book. Really cool. It's the book that really tells you that you're full of it, and it winks at you at the same time, and it says, "So am I." Fearscape number 4, the penultimate issue from Vault Comics. Pick of the week. And let's get right into another Vault comic. Friendo number 4 is out, the penultimate issue by writer Alex Packnadell and artist D. Cuniff, Martin Simmons, and letterer, who is the letterer? Yeah, Taylor Esposito. That's right. And Kim McLean doing some design work, and she did the variant cover, I believe. This book has been fantastic. This is number 2 on my picks of the week. If I could, I don't do ties, but if I could, I would. Both of these books are fantastic. Friendo is a story set in the not-too-distant future that tackles themes about consumerism culture, right? So consumer culture. It really does do a great satirical job of poking fun at society. It's not just consumer culture. It's not just toxic masculinity. It's society as a whole that's under Packnadell's radar here. He does a great job with the script. It's fantastic. It's basically the story of this dude who has this Friendo app on these glasses. It creates a friend for him, and then somehow in issue number 1, through an electrical surge, the circuits get fried, the ethics policies go out the window, and now they're just on this crazy mad crime spree, but the manufacturer's allowing it. Right? They're allowing it because it's driving foot traffic into their stores. So not only is this about the manufacturers of consumerism, right? But it's also about the it's also aimed at the participants of consumer culture. I love this book. It looks right at me and says, "Robbie, you're doing wrong. Here's an entertaining story to kind of talk to you about it," right? Real fun stuff about the insanity in the world and how we all just want to sit around and watch it sometimes. This book says so much about society, so much about consumer culture, so much about toxic masculinity, so much about failed parenthood, so much about so much in 2019. This book is amazing. The artwork by Martin Simmons and Dee Cunnife's colors are absolutely astounding. Tie it all up in a nice bow, but with Taylor Esposito on the lettering and some design work. Fantastic book, a sleek, clean package. Vault Comics wins the week again, just like they did 2 weeks ago. Fantastic stuff. Friendo number 4, the penultimate issue. You gotta read those books. It's fantastic. And let's just continue on with some of the smaller publishers, the non-big two, right? Let's go to Image real quick, because there's a Gideon Falls this week. Gideon Falls number 11 is probably my number 3 favorite book of the week. These are all very, very close. So Gideon Falls is a really cool story by Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, and colorist Dave Stewart. One of the best colorists in the business ever. Andrea Sorrentino, an amazing artist with immensely cool design work, and I can't show you too many pages because I don't want to spoil any. I can't show you any pages from here because it's going to be a spoiler to people that read this book. This book is amazing. It's great. It's a cool little urban, horror noirish type mystery type thing, right? Really spooky, really scary, but it like gets really weird and really out there, right? And if you remember, if you read this book at the end of Arc 1, the book just went crazy the moment they stepped into the Black Barn. You know what I'm talking about. This is the final issue of Arc 2, and it does just as much crazy stuff. It reveals a lot of stuff very subtly, I might add, but it really just brings up a whole new world of questions and sets the series in a direction that just keeps it engaging, enthralling, entertaining, energy-inducing, injecting, amazing stuff. Gideon Falls number 11 out this week from writer Jeff Lemire, artist Andrea Sorrentino, and colorist Dave Stewart. Such an amazing book. It was my favorite comic book of 2018. No lie, it continues to be one of the best books of 2019. Gideon Falls number 11 out this week. Let's continue on from Image Comics. Criminal number 2. Criminal, it's not really a reboot, just a new series. Back at Image. Was it originally back at Image? Wasn't it? Where was it originally? Was it Image? Then it went to Icon. Then it went back to Image. I don't know. Whatever. That being said, Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, they know exactly what to do when they're trying to do crime fiction. This is colored by Jacob Phillips. The artwork is beautiful. It's amazing. It's elegant. I never really read Criminal. I'm very familiar with Brubaker and Phillips' work from books like Sleeper, Fatale, The Fade Out, things like that, right? Kill or Be Killed. I almost said Die Another Day. Kill or Be Killed. Criminal number 2, though, is really cool. This is like going to be like, what, book 8 or 9 or something, but I've never read anything that came before. This is a nice story. Even if you didn't read issue 1 of this series, which really engaged me, I didn't know the history, the mythology, the world building that's been done with Criminal, but it was still so engaging. Ed Brubaker does a great job of just putting as much on page as possible, as much information, as much dialogue, as much character work on every single page, aided by Sean Phillips and then Jacob Phillips. Was it Jacob, right? Yeah, Jacob Phillips on the coloring. The artwork on this book is amazing. It's really cool. And this is a nice little crime story that really kind of centers a little bit on the comic book industry, on a slightly askew version of the comic book industry. Really cool stuff. I think that Brubaker and Phillips have tackled this subject matter before in the Criminal book. I've never read Criminal before. I loved issue number 1. I loved issue number 2 even more. This was really great, really fun, very engaging. Great piece of crime fiction noir in comic books. Number 2, even if you missed number 1, you can read it right here. It takes the story in a completely different direction. I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. I'm actually excited to go back and reread some Criminal. Actually, read some Criminal. I never really read the old stuff, so let's check it out. Hit Girl is here with a brand new season 2, Hit Girl in Hollywood number 1. Why is it super significant? I quit reading Hit Girl. It just got a little too silly for me, right? But Kevin Smith is kicking off season 2 of Hit Girl. So Kevin Smith, Pernell Orum, let's see what they got to do. And Kevin Smith gives us a silent issue, an issue without any dialogue. And it's actually very effective. I was actually sitting here thinking, Kevin Smith's track record in comic books is always like, it's always late, it's always delayed. Sometimes it never even finishes. Like Daredevil the Target, we will never get anything other than issue number 1 of that. But Kevin Smith's done some great comic book work. His Clerks work, seriously, Clerks and the Clerks Holiday Special were so good, so well done, especially with Jim Mahfood on the artwork. The artwork helps sells this as well. And Daredevil Guardian Devil is one of my favorite Daredevil stories. That was Kevin Smith as well. Hit Girl is pretty interesting. It's decent. It's still a little silly. If you like Hit Girl, if you like that crazy in-your-face, grotesque, over-the-top violence, you're gonna like it, right? It's the same thing, right? But the way that Kevin Smith can keep this book on time, I should say, is that the first issue is pretty much completely silent. No trademark Kevin Smith dialogue there, but it's actually a pretty decent issue. I thought it was pretty cool. The artwork really sells the issue. It really sells it. It's very violent, and it does deal with some very sensitive subject matter. I will warn you about that. But Hit Girl, Season 2, number 1, it's pretty decent. Murder Falcon is here with number 5, and it was just as balls to the wall awesome as the previous 4 issues. This book has been amazing by Darren Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. This has been so much fun. It's the story of this band, and their music brings about the War Falcon, and he's out there to save the universe, save the world from this extra dimensional threat. It's awesome. Fans of metal music and metal comics, you're going to really like this stuff. If you just really like really fun, out there, outlandish, high energy, high octane comic books, read Murder Falcon. It doesn't take itself too seriously, obviously, but it still has this nice thread of a real, like, deep, somewhat tragic and real story inside of it that really takes it away from just, it could just be this crazy fun thing. But instead, they also inject it with this tinge of humanity that really, really works. Murder Falcon number 5 is out this week, and it was fantastic. From Black Mask Studios, we have Sex, Death, Revolution number 3. I just recently read 1 and 2, and now I can read 3 and tell you guys that this book is pretty cool. I really, really like this one. It's written by Max Visaggio. This one's got artwork by Kessia Wintersky and colored by Harry Saxon, lettered by Zach Zam. A different artist on each issue, but a really cool story that tells the story. I think it's a different artist on each issue, if I'm not mistaken, but it tells a story about a coven, a witch coven that's basically broken up, right? But the ideas about magic and what it really is and how it affects the real world, it's all spot on. It's well researched, well done. Visaggio has amazing dialogue throughout. And then when you get to issue 3 and you really get with the idea and the theme that she's exploring, what happens towards the end of the issue, the revelation of what's actually happening, really deep personal stuff. Really like this book. Highly recommend it. Get out there and check it out right now. It may not be easy to find at your comic shop because it's from Black Mask. It's very low ordered company usually. Sex, Death, Revolution. If you like Mags's work over at things like Eternity Girl and Vagrant Queen, definitely check out Sex, Death, Revolution. Fantastic. Livewire number 3 is here from Valiant Comics. After issue number 1, I felt like it was just relying a little too much on the Harbinger Wars 2 storyline, and it didn't really feel fresh and free for a new reader to jump in, right? But issue 2, cast aside all doubt. Issue 3 just destroys that doubt. This is an amazing book, really well done. Even if you're not well versed in the Valiant universe, I have a passing knowledge of what's been going on in this recently rebooted Valiant universe. I have a familiar idea with what the Harbinger Foundation is, obviously from back in the day, Bloodshots, other things like that. But this is such a well-done comic book. It is amazing. It's written by Vita Ayala, with artwork by Raul Aline, with Patricia Martin and Scott Koblish as well. This book is fantastic. It's got amazing artwork, beautiful colors, great design, composition. This book just really nails it, and it's really tackling its themes with excellency. It's fantastic. Livewire number 3 out this week. Go Power Rangers number 17 from Boom Studios. Ryan Parrott's just been doing the best Power Rangers book ever. It's been fantastic. Everybody was crazy about Kyle Higgins' Shattered Grid, and it was good. But Parrott's been low-key under the radar, building up a really cool story that really fleshes out some of the inconsistencies in the early Power Rangers mythology, if you could say that. Really cool backstory about Rita and Zordon in here. And when you get to the end, Power Ranger fans, pay attention to what she's wearing. Really cool stuff, especially involving the backstory of Rita. Let's get into DC Comics. They got Wonder Twins number 1 out this week. A new launch from Wonder Comics that's spearheaded by Brian Michael Bendis. This one is written by Mark Russell with artwork by Stephen Byrne, and it is really good. It is straight up good. First of all, the artwork is clean, really colorful, very dynamic, and very fun. This book is very fun, and it doesn't take itself very seriously. It's the Wonder Twins, for Christ's sake, right? So, we remember the Wonder Twins from the Super Friends show, and there's lots of references to Super Friends type stuff. This is set in continuity. It makes sense. It doesn't make fools out of Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, but it utilizes them in a Super Friends, Wonder Twins type way, and it works so well. I really, really like this book. It gets a little out there sometimes. Definitely you'll learn a little bit more about the Wonder Twins' adolescence, right, from their world. Really fun. I really enjoyed this book. If you like Naomi, if you like Young Justice, I highly encourage you to check this out. A very fun, vibrant, doesn't take itself too seriously comic book with a little bit of a nice message, but just a great, fun, humorous, vibrant tone throughout. Really capture that well. Usually the Wonder Twins are just considered, especially by me, as super, super dumb, right? Just not cool at all. I really don't, I'm not a Wonder Twins guy. I really like this comic book. I highly recommend it. The Batman Who Laughs number 3 is here. Steve Snyder, along with Steve Snyder? Who is that? Scott Snyder. My bad. Scott Snyder, along with artist Jock, is basically doing a spiritual successor and sequel to the Black Mirror. Really interesting stuff going on with James Jr. here, with Batman now being infected with the Joker toxin. He's been slowly trying to battle it off. The Batman Who Laughs, he's got this plan. It's big, it's epic, it's scary. Batman doesn't know how he's going to deal with it. The dire circumstance, just like what Snyder's been building up with his Justice League book, just like what he built up with Metal, just like what he built up with the Court of Owls, it feels like a situation that the hero cannot get out of. And that's really, really cool. We know that Batman's going to be okay. We know that the Batman Who Laughs will ultimately eventually be defeated, right? It may not happen in this miniseries because I think this is going to be tied in to some big long-term plans that Scott Snyder has, along with Steve, his distant cousin, I believe. But this one's really, really cool. David Barron on the colors really helped sell it. Sal Cipriano on the lettering really makes it work. If you're a fan of Jock, it's different, it's edgy, it's out there, but the Grim Knight Batman is in there. The Batman Who Laughs is in here. Really interesting stuff. And if you like the Black Mirror, you're really going to like this. Really picking up on a lot of themes and things left dangling from the end of that story. Snyder's just doing a great job doing wild, crazy stuff. And he's found a way to have Batman curse in almost every issue he writes with Batman. And it comes across as silly, but not out of place. It's actually very well done. Kudos to you guys. And I love Jock's artwork. Superman number 8 is here from Brian Michael Bendis, Brandon Peterson, and Ivan Reis, along with others. A pretty fun, decent issue. First of all, it's got a nice little tie-in to Naomi. If you read Naomi, you saw that scene where Superman and Mongol just show up in her town. They're having this big battle. It's a nice little tie-in to this issue, so that's cool. But this issue is mostly more about explaining where Jonathan Kent has been, how it was when he was off into space and time with Jor-El, what exactly happened, how he's aged so much, what adventures he has had, and how Superman is dealing with that. I really like the character work here with Superman. I like what he's telling. There's a little bit about what Jonathan says about why he decided to go with his grandfather Jor-El that makes a little bit more sense. But the whole idea still of Jor-El and Lois, of Jor-El taking John and Lois away and them just letting him run off with Jor-El, who the last time we had seen him was kind of like a homicidal maniac. It does seem a little weird, still doesn't ring quite true, but I do like Superman's reaction. I do like the characterizations. I do like the voices. They all ring true. Still just not quite sold on this Jonathan Kent stuff. But the Superman stuff I've been to has been pretty solid. The Flash number 64 is here with the second part of The Price. This chapter, The Price of Innocence. So it's kind of like a loose tie-in to Heroes in Crisis, meaning that Batman and Superman, not Batman and Superman, but Superman and Flash are teaming up to solve a mystery. The mystery involves Gotham Girl, and they loosely kind of, they start talking about Heroes in Crisis, about Wally dying and things like that, right? So the reason I said Superman Batman is because Superman Batman's the friendship that usually, the bromance that usually gets talked about in the DC universe. But Flash and Batman have a really, really cool respect and similarity to each other as well. And they also are very different characters as well. So it's really cool to see Joshua Williamson, the writer, kind of take those characters, and this issue is way better than the last one. And it's also really cool to see some of this Gotham Girl, Gotham kind of thing be revealed and be talked about again, because ever since the end of Tom King's initial run of I Am Gotham, Gotham Girl's just kind of been loose out there, just kind of here and there, right? And this seems like it's finally going to delve into the history of Gotham and Gotham Girl. A really interesting idea, and it almost dares to even tie in Heroes in Crisis to Bane. Maybe. And it's so weird that so much of this is dealing with Tom King plot threads but it's not written by Tom King, but it's done very well by Joshua Williamson, and it's got really cool artwork by Raphael Sandoval and company, Tarragona and Mori. Really cool issue. I actually like that a lot better than the previous one. Detective Comics 998 is by far the weakest so far of Peter Tomasi's Detective Comics run. That's not saying much, though. It's still a great issue. It's just that the artwork by Doug Mahnke feels a little bit rushed. It's also inked by two different people, which makes it feel just a little inconsistent in the artwork. You got Jamie Mendoza, Mark Irwin. It's not that it's bad artwork. The composition's there. The storytelling, the sequential dynamic energy of it is all still there, but it just feels a little, the lines feel a little too free, a little too loose from what we're used to with Mahnke's really, really solid artwork, right? So it just feels a little rushed. The story also just feels a little inconsistent and clunky as well. It gets really unclear towards the end, but you have to think about it a second, then you can piece it together. But still, Tomasi and company are doing a great job in Detective Comics, building it up to 1,000. It's a mystery I still haven't solved, and that's really cool for a Detective Comics, building up to issue 1,000, right? Justice League number 8 is here. James Tynion IV has been doing a really good job with this one, taking the darker magical side of the Justice League and the DC Universe and letting it come out slowly, subtly, but into full force. It's a great team. They've all split apart. At times, this book, to me, has felt a little uneven. It's all paved out now. It's all evened out, I should say. I really like this issue. The story starts off the Lords of Order, some Dr. Fate stuff here, some Man Bat stuff here, some Detective Chimp stuff here, some Zatanna stuff here. Really do like it. Alberto Martinez Bueno on the penciling with Raul Fernandez on the inking and Brad Anderson on the coloring. Make a really fun issue. Great design work, great double page spreads, really good usage of dialogue and just you know, back and forth between characters to get in a lot of exposition. Tynion does that so well. Justice League Dark is a really fun story for fans of that darker side of the DC universe. Justice League Dark number 8 out this week, and I really, really liked it. Wonder Woman number 64 is here. I recently got caught up on Wonder Woman, written by G. Willow Wilson. I initially stepped off of it after a couple issues because Gary Nord's artwork wasn't doing anything for me. It just made the story not feel connected. It made it feel clunky. But then when I went back and reread it, right afterwards, other artists came in, and the art got so much better. The story starts getting a little bit better. Wilson is getting her groove going here on Wonder Woman, and this is probably one of the better issues yet. I did like it. Veronica Cale is spotlighted. Greg Rucka Wonder Woman fans are really going to like that. She's basically Diana's Lex Luthor, but probably even more threatening. But really cool stuff, interesting stuff. So if you gave up on Wonder Woman like I did, maybe pick up the trade and check it out. It did even itself out. It's still not a super top-notch book, but it does have the makings of something that could really come into itself. Wonder Woman number 64 out this week from the DC Comics, and it's got an art germ cover too if you're interested in that. Hawkman number 9 is out this week, continuing the best Hawkman book there ever was. Robert Venditti has done a great job of taking the character of Hawkman, reinvigorating him, explaining fully his whole just myriad of different origins and different continuities and things like that, making sense of it all, making it very seamless and cohesive. Brian Hitch has been pumping out some really good artwork. This issue, not quite the best as some of the other issues, just like with Doug Mahnke. It feels like this is towards the end of him needing to take a break, and so maybe in the next issue or so we'll get another person, but he does get assisted on the inking here by Andrew Curry, so maybe that has something to do with it. Not that the art is bad, because it's still big and majestic and epic when it needs to be, and the situation's getting big and dire. Hawkman is super fun. This book has been amazing the entire time. Electric Warriors number 4 is here from Steve Orlando, DC Comics and Travel Foreman and Company, and another great chapter in this really cool story that's about this gladiator combat that these worlds have. Each world has a representative, and instead of the planets warring amongst each other, they just have their gladiators battle it out for them. It's set in the future of the DC universe. It's got a lot of fun little connections to the DC universe. If you want to see what happens to Superman's cape in this issue, pretty sacrilegious, but pretty dope. They're doing a great job on this one. Electric Warriors number 4 out of 6. It's going to be a 6-issue miniseries, I believe. Also from DC Comics this week, we got the Mr. Miracle trade paperback. Finally got a spotlight at $24.99 for all of Mr. Miracle, all 12 issues in one beautiful, luscious binding. This was one of the top books of last year and the year before. In fact, in 2017, it was my number 4 on my top 10, and last year it was my number 2 of 2018. So this book dominated for the entirety of its run. fantastic stuff. It's out in trade right now. Also, Torso is finally out in a new trade paperback edition from DC Jinx World. Brian Michael Bendis, Mark Andreyko. This is seriously, in my opinion, the best crime fiction noir in comic books, period. If you've never read this, this is early Bendis. This is when I was getting into him, and this stuff just blew me away. This is basically the story of Elliot Ness taking on America's first serial killer. It's kind of like an unofficial sequel to The Untouchables, and it would make a good movie. They've been trying to do it for a long time. They really, really should. Let's move on to Marvel. Avengers No Road Home is here, number 1 of a weekly mini-series that's going to be a follow-up to the weekly Avengers No Surrender story that happened in the ongoing Avengers title earlier this year. So if you really like No Surrender, definitely check this out. It has a lot of the classic Avengers characters. It's got Hercules, it's got Vision, it's got Scarlet Witch, it's got Hawkeye, it's got Voyager from that No Surrender run. So this is written by Jim Zub, Al Ewing, Mark Waid. It's also got the Immortal Hulk in it, in a story that takes place right after the Immortal Hulk in Hell story. So I really like how they put it there and how it fits in. But it was actually pretty cool. And if you're not digging on what's going on with the Jason Aaron flagship Avengers book, which I am, especially with the Blade stuff going on right now, but this feels a little bit more classic Avengers for you. So if you're more of a fan of that, I highly recommend that you check it out. But it was pretty good. Very solid debut issue. Marvel's annotated number 1 is here. And so what it does is it reprints Marvel's, the classic 90s series from Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek, and it adds little tidbits like annotations, and it has the script. And it has the sketches and all the thumbnails and things like that. So it's a really cool package, really nice addition. And if you're a big, super fan of Marvel's, it's a nice immersive experience into the making and creation of that comic book. Absolutely. Savage Sword of Conan is here. It's the second ongoing Conan book launched by Marvel since they regained the rights. This one is written by Gary Duggan with artwork by Ron Garney. And I thought that the artwork by Ron Garney and Richard Eisenoff on the coloring was really good. Really top-notch. Fantastic stuff. Ron Garney, it seems lately, has been reinventing his style for almost every single book that he's on. That being said, the story's pretty good. It feels like a very classic Savage Tales of Conan story that you would have read. I remember reading some of those, those black and white Conan magazines from Marvel back in the day, and this feels like one of those, so I really liked it. I thought it was cool. Conan fans are going to be very pleased. Savage Tales of Conan. Savage Sword of Conan, my bad. Out this week. Amazing Spider-Man number 15 is here. Nick Spencer and company have been doing an amazing job on this title. I really think they do a great job here spotlighting the heroism and the impact that Aunt May has had on Peter Parker's life. Really fun, interesting stuff going on here, especially with the Lizard, and beautiful artwork by Chris Bachalo. Fantastic stuff. If you're a fan of Bachalo, you know exactly what you're getting into. Really cool, tight layouts, really great composition, really just masterful work. This is great. Nick Spencer's been doing a great job. I'm loving it. He does pick up on a few threads from Secret Empire. I wish they would just leave it all alone, but it's still a fun comic book. It's still a serious comic. It's still an adventurous comic book, and it's still an action-oriented comic book, and some really fun things that are building up to this big Kraven story that really seems intriguing now after 15 issues. Really exciting. Really exciting. Thor number 10 is here with one of the best covers of the week. This book was really, really good. Andrea Muti? No, my bad. That's from Fearscape. Mike Del Mundo on the artwork is fantastic. I really, really did like it. The colors are great. Jason Aaron takes this moment right before the War of the Realms kind of like blows up and tells a very personal tale about Odin's relationship with Thor. And I thought that the character work done here on Odin by Jason Aaron was exceptional. I thought it was amazing. There have been some moments over the last few years throughout Jason Aaron's run where I think that maybe he's playing Odin up to be a little too obstinate, a little too stubborn, a little too self-defeating, right? To be the Allfather. But after this issue, this is like Jason Aaron's thesis on Odin. And it is so well done, so great, such a great look into the relationship of Odin and Thor. And it's tragic, but it is also just a great comic book to read, and it really kind of like made me think a lot differently about Odin, and especially the way that Jason Aaron has characterized him. And really exciting stuff happening here. I'm liking Thor. So War of the Realms stuff's supposed to be big. We'll see. The Age of X-Men rolls right on through with Next Gen number 1. I'm loving this Age of X-Men stuff so far. It's kind of like the reverse of the Age of Apocalypse. Instead of this crazy mutant dystopia, it's this awesome mutant utopia. But how awesome can it be, right? Because how much shady things do the X-Men and the X-Men have to do to keep this utopia going, right? So the Next Gen is written by Ed Brisson with artwork by Marcus Toe, Jason Keith, fantastic lettering from Clayton Cowles. A really good job on this one. This is the young X-Men team. Maggot is on the cover, not in the issue really, but whatever. But it is about the young X-Men and kind of like the Generation X, right? This is the Generation Next, right? Anyway, I really like this issue. A really cool story getting set up. Some interesting things about Glob. Ed Brisson really likes Glob. Yeah, he really does. But this Age of X-Men stuff, I'm liking it. So if you like the Alpha one-shot, if you like Marvelous X-Men, I think you'll like this one as well. It's a really neat world that's being built up. I can't wait to see all the different books and how they're all going to play together, because the interconnectedness is something that's really, really cool about it. Mr. and Mrs. X is here, number 8, in fact, from writer Kelly Thompson. This book is great. It's turned me into a Rogue and Gambit fan. Historically, I never liked Rogue and Gambit. I hated their relationship. But this has made me not only love them today, but it's made me really find a newfound respect for their previous history together. And it's just astonishing. And it's all because Kelly Thompson's witty dialogue, amazing stories, really great sense of pacing, and she's assisted by some of the best artists out there. In this issue, she is assisted by, if I can find the credits, they're somewhere. Anyway, Oscar Balzaldua and Frank Diarmata. That, of course, was on the cover right there. Anyway, a great issue. Yet another real fun issue of Mr. and Mrs. X that takes the idea of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type thing, but it does so in a really fun, fresh way. And it also has a nice way to reflect on the history of these two characters throughout the comics. Also, but from Kelly Thompson this week is Captain Marvel number 2. I have said for a while, if they're going to do a Captain Marvel movie and try to make it a big deal and sell to the American populace that Captain Marvel is a big deal, which they have successfully done at Marvel Comics, but seems like since Civil War II, the character's just been a little bit on the downswing. Kelly Thompson gets the character, understands how to make her elevated, and just in a fantastic way. Captain Marvel number 2 was great. I loved issue number 1. Carmen Carnero and Tamara Bonvillain and Clayton Cowles rounding out that team on the art and the letters. Fantastic stuff. Really dynamic issue. Really cool. Fun, slam bang, typical Marvel superhero fest. And I loved it. I loved it so much. Kelly Thompson is, I think, the right writer for this book at the right time. I'm really excited. I'm excited for the movie. I hope it does well, and I hope people come in and check out the comic, because Kelly Thompson knows what she's doing. A really fun, nice adventure with Carol without all the baggage that's typically been associated with her over the last couple years. Dead Man Logan number 4 is here, and I said that Ed Brisson likes Glob, and there's some interesting Glob bits in here as well. Dead Man Logan is a nice continuation of Old Man Logan and an ultimate conclusion to Old Man Logan. This is a nice, fun story. Mysterio has been used by Miss Sinister and Sin and Crossbones. They've taken the idea of what actually spawned out the Old Man Logan universe of Mysterio, making Wolverine think that villains were attacking him and he kills them all, but in fact it's all the X-Men. Everything's blown out. They've used that plan. He almost killed some of the Avengers. It got crazy. It got wild. This is the after effects, the ramifications. Ed Brisson's doing a great job with this one. He understands the character of not just Logan, but especially Old Man Logan. Really fun stuff, a great issue. I'm excited to see where it goes. Riri Williams, Ironheart number 3 is here, and Eve Ewing is doing a fantastic job on this title. Bendis created this character, set up the history, set up a new direction, but Ewing has just taken that and improved upon it immensely. Add in Luciano Vecchio and Matt Milla on the art team, and it's great. It's dynamic, it's fun, it's free. Riri is a very serious character with a really interesting things that are going on right here. Ironheart was great in a typical Marvel classic superhero sense. I loved it. The Punisher number 8 is here. Matthew Rosenberg's been telling this story ever since the Punisher first donned the War Machine armor. He went after Hydra. Now it's eventually led him to be a captor in a prison by Baron Zemo. So this issue is the Punisher orchestrating a prison breakout. And it's just as fun as it sounds. Really cool. Matthew Rosenberg's been doing a good job with that one. The Winter Soldier number 3 is here. Kyle Higgins has introduced this new character. Could be an upcoming newish type sidekick for the Winter Soldier. It's basically a kid that was trained and created in order to kill the Winter Soldier, and now Bucky's trying to tell him that that's not everything you have to be, because he himself was used as a killer. Kyle Higgins, Rod Reyes, they're doing a great job on this one. This is a much underlooked book, but I actually really liked it. I was really down on issue number 1. Issue 2 really I liked a lot. and I even liked issue 3 even better. So Winter Soldier number 3 out this week. And finally, let's talk about this, Star Wars Age of the Republic, Count Dooku. I love Count Dooku. I really, really do. I love Christopher Lee. I think he had a great, noble presence in the movies, the brief bit that he was in, but mostly I love this character from the Clone Wars cartoons. Count Dooku's great, and this is a nice little piece of comic book one-shot story that will let you know exactly how awesome Count Dooku is. The artwork by Luke Ross and Yava Tartakilia is absolutely fantastic. Great stuff, and I thought it was pretty good. Those Age of the Republic Star Wars one-shots, they haven't been the best things. They're not going to change your life. They've been really, really good. I think they've been solid. I think they've been pretty decent. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. Lots of great books. Everything I read this week was great. This may be the best new comic book day of 2019 yet. Gideon Falls, Fear Escape, and Friendo for sure. But lots of exciting stuff. Wonder Twins is fun, and lots of great stuff out this week. So what did you read? What are you excited for? Let me know in the comments down below. Love talking to you about comic books in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video, and be sure to join us at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.